Internal Revenue Service IRS news. Economic impact payments. How the tax community can help. This is from the California Society of Enrolled Agents. IRS Commissioner to Tax Pros help spread an important message. On Friday evening, April 3rd, IRS Commissioner Chuck Reddick sent an email to the NAEA asking enroll agents and other tax professionals to help spread the word, not only to their clients, but also to the general public about how to make sure people receive their economic impact payment, the EIP, as quickly as possible through direct deposit. While many taxpayers will automatically receive a direct deposit payment, there are still many others who will not in the IRS system who are not in the IRS system and will need to take action to ensure they receive their EIP. What the IRS is doing. Soon there will be a way for these people to get their banking information on file with the IRS. In this email to NAEA, the commissioner states, quote, by early next week, we will have specified information available about how people can go online to provide information. Others could file an information zero, quote, return, and if they also provide banking information, they could receive their economic impact payment quickly by direct deposits. Others would receive a paper check. So notice again that the concern here is, do we have the information? Does the IRS have the information in order to issue the money, in order to issue the payment? And number two, how can we get the money out as soon as possible? The fastest way is the direct deposit. Therefore, do they have the information that is the direct deposit information? If not, is there any way to get that information to the IRS as quickly as possible so that one, the payments go out, and two, they go out in a quick and efficient fashion? So back to the text. How can you help? How you can help. Commissioner Reddick is asking that the tax practitioner community help them reach lower income, non-filers, military, veterans, ethnic and homeless communities who are not in the system and might not otherwise know how to provide information that would enable the IRS to generate an EIP for them. For example, share information on your local neighborhood app with local food banks, homeless shelters, your personal social media accounts, senior centers, and faith-based organizations. Further, the email notes that Social Security benefits who are not typically required to file tax returns will not need to file an abbreviated tax return to receive an EIP. So in other words, one of the people that you would think would be under concern here are older individuals who are receiving Social Security payments. The general rule would be that they don't need to take any action because the IRS does have their contact information already, unless there's some kind of other circumstances that are involved, such as possibly they have a dependent, which would affect the amount of payment. And they also have an issue with if they're getting a paper check and they want to get a electronic check, then there might be some action that needs to be taken in that case. But they should have the information in order to know that individual is in the system, even though they didn't file a tax return, because they're making the Social Security payments. Back to the text. Instead, payments will be automatically deposited to their bank accounts. This includes seniors, Social Security recipients, and railroad retirees who are not otherwise required to file the tax return. So remember, your mind should be saying, well, does the IRS have my information in order to process the return? What do they need to process the return? Well, really, they just need to know that you're a taxpayer if you have any dependents, and then they need to be able to send you the check, and that's going to be basically either by mail or direct deposit. You want the direct deposit. If they have your Social Security information and they're already sending you checks, that goes through Social Security, but it's still part of the federal government. They can access that information and process the payment, but it will be processed in a similar format as the Social Security checks. And again, you want the direct deposit if possible, if you want the payment to happen in a quicker fashion. Back to the text. The IRS has developed two posters for distribution, one about payment amounts and eligibility, and the other about how to file your 2018 19 returns. So there's links to those here. I'll put a link to this in the description if I can, and then you can access those. What's next? As soon as the IRS releases information about how people can go online to make sure they receive their EIP, we will utilize all our communication channels to help get the word out to you. We encourage you to regularly visit the CSEA COVID-19 Resources for Tax Professionals page for ongoing updates. Stay safe. Now, also note that the IRS has worked a little bit with Intuit, which is the owner of QuickBooks, and TurboTax. So we do have a tool, or we talked about a tool that actually Intuit or TurboTax is providing that can help some individuals out that need to provide an informational return. So, in other words, if you don't have Social Security, if you don't have Social Security and you didn't file taxes, you still could get a payment, but the IRS doesn't have your information. So you could use this tool for TurboTax, which would help you to file just basically an information return, and that would give them the information in order to calculate the amount of payment and give you the banking information, or at least mailing information for that payment. So we have a video on that. I'll put a link to that if you want to take a look at that, and that'll be the process. Again, if you get your Social Security payments, then you even if you don't file the tax return, you should be they should have your information. However, if they don't have your banking information, then again, you could file a tool like this, or you could try to go to the IRS website and see if they have an access tool. They may be working on an access tool to just put in the deposit or banking information to process that, or you could file basically a no information return. Those would be your options there. Now, if you didn't file in 2019, well, then they still have your 2018 information. So they can still, know who you are, know your contact information, unless something has changed. So if you changed addresses or something, you can contact the IRS and change the address and whatnot. If you change something that's going to have an effect on the amount of the payment, however, such as you have another dependent or something like that, then you may actually want to file your 2019 return. And if you don't have all the information, you might want to actually file the return with as best you can, with the intention then of filing an amended return. That's one option that you could do. But again, if you don't have your 2019 filed, they will typically default back to the 2018. If the 2018 return has something that would affect the amount of the payment, or if they don't have your direct deposit and you want the payment faster, then you may want to look into filing the 2019 return, or look for tools for the IRS that will be updating the direct deposit information, that you can work with them on that. If you don't file the returns for 2018 and 19, then you might be receiving Social Security. If you're receiving Social Security, they have your information, so you would think that they would be able to process you then the check based on that. However, again, you still want to give them the banking information if possible. If they're giving you a paper check, they're probably going to have to follow that process, obviously, if they don't have the banking information. If there's something that they don't know that would affect the check, such as a kind of an unusual circumstance where you'd have a dependent that they don't know about, then that might be a situation where you want to file an informational return using the TurboTax software. And if you don't file a tax return because you're not required to, and you don't get Social Security, then the IRS doesn't have your information much really at all. So then you would think you'd have to file an informational return, and you can use that TurboTax tool. We'll put a link to the description, or the video we have on how to get there in the description below.